A female junior in high school has a boyfriend. They are always together in school, at games and at parties. A new freshman girl moves in from out of state. She is pretty and fun and has started flirting actively with said boyfriend. Junior girl sees all of this and perceives a threat. Just deep down inside her. It's not a physical threat, it's a social threat. A threat to her status and popularity. What will she do? Well, she is not going to do nothing. She is not going to run away. She is going to fight. But not with her fists. That has direct negative consequences for her. Instead, she will spread gossip and rumors about freshman girl in school and online to destroy her reputation and popularity until she is no longer a threat. High school junior girl doesn't reflect on what she's doing. It simply comes naturally and easily. Another example. A middle-aged person working as a mid-level employee becomes aware that his company is downsizing. He perceives a threat to his livelihood. This is bad. His body reacts. He can't fight this. He's not in a position of power. Like my previous example, he is not going to do nothing and just watch his job and paycheck vanish. What he will do is retreat. He will flee. He will rely on his professional social network to secure another job at a competitor looking to expand. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for it's been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them the exact time that the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you found him, bring me word so that I may go also and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Anything and everything can be a threat, and not just physically, but a threat to your way of life, to your values, your identity, your religion, your politics, your nation, your family, your happiness. And let's not forget this. There can be threats to your power. The Gospel of Matthew tells a story about this kind of threat to power. One day, a group of foreigners arrive in Jerusalem. Their religion and culture practice astrology. They know the sky. They read the stars and notice something others seemingly have not. The stars' alignment and movement have revealed to them the arrival of a new king, and they venture into the wilderness to explore and find the person that they have seen in the stars. They come to Jerusalem and seek an audience with the person in charge, with Herod. They tell this powerful person their story, and after hearing it, Herod and all Jerusalem, it says, are afraid. Blood pressure increases, rapid breathing delivers oxygen to the muscles, pupils dilate, non-essential body functions stop, the prefrontal cortex evaluates the situation. A new king threatens the existing power structure, and more information is needed to make a decision. So all the learned people of the city are gathered, and using their religious resources, they tell Herod and the foreigners that the anointed one of God is to be born in Bethlehem. The foreigners leave, find who they are looking for, but do not return to tell Herod. What we did not read today, what you did not hear, is that to eliminate the threat to his power, Herod orders that in Bethlehem, children 2 and under should be taken from their parents and killed. Any and all children, 2 and under. Mary and Joseph, perceiving this threat, don't fight or freeze, but they take flight and leave town to become refugees in Egypt. This whole story is horrible. Matthew's story is incredibly attuned, though, to human behavior and threat mitigation, and interestingly, places God in the middle of it all. The biblical story offers so many perspectives and points for reflection and spiritual growth if you can get away from simply reading them as matter-of-fact stories, like a history book, and instead see their theology and way that the authors and biblical community understand what it is to be human and how the divine intersects our humanity. For example, today, or this week, we're celebrating Epiphany in the church. We hear not only how wise men came to see Jesus, that's a familiar story for many of us, but also this deeply human and theological question: is Jesus a threat? More specifically, is Jesus a threat to you in a similar way that he was a threat to Herod? Oh man, that's a question, isn't it? Keeping with Matthew's gospel, later in the story, Jesus will heal a mute man, a person who, for whatever reason, cannot speak, a person whose life has been made worse and has suffered because of this condition. Jesus heals him. The crowd sees this healing and they are amazed. The leaders see this, and what they perceive is a threat to their influence. And being a threat, they try to mitigate this threat. The Pharisees say to the crowd that Jesus does this because he himself is a demoniac, the ruler of demons, in fact. Name calling, rumor spreading. Boy, that reminds me of the high school junior I told you about. Jesus is threatening to religious norms and the people who enforce these norms when his disciples pick grain on the Sabbath because they are hungry, violating God's law of working on the Sabbath and keeping it holy. That story comes a little bit later in Matthew. The same is true when he heals a man also on the Sabbath. Again, a story in Matthew coming later. Jesus is threatening to religious and cultural norms. His teachings threaten the power of the rich and the sanctity of a purity system that divides people up as clean or unclean. Is Jesus a threat? In Matthew's gospel, absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus has infinite patience, compassion, grace, and forgiveness for the poor, the hurt, the least, in a way that brings life, peace, and wholeness to them, while simultaneously threatening any person, government, religious system, or tradition that perpetuates harm or profits off the suffering of others. Eventually, the powers that be will kill Jesus because of the threat that he poses. Are you a C.S. Lewis fan or a Narnia fan? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm curious. Did you grow up reading the Chronicles of Narnia? Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, if you don't, C.S. Lewis was a famous 20th century scholar and writer who ended up creating a series of children's stories about Narnia, a world of talking animals that a few kids stumble into and have these crazy adventures in. That's the gist of it. These stories are fairly popular with kids, or at least they used to be, and also with adults, because they function also on a deeper level. They're not just stories, but these stories are allegorical, and the characters and events in the books mirror certain elements of the Christian faith. In particular, Aslan the lion is associated with Jesus. That's the Christ figure in these stories. Now, I tell you all of this because there is a great part in the first book where Lucy, a young girl, is being introduced to Aslan, the Jesus character, for the very first time. So she's nervous, and she begins to ask all these questions. And being that Aslan is a lion, Lucy asks, is he safe? And the famous line spoken back to her in the book is, Of course he isn't safe, but he's good. When C.S. Lewis encountered Jesus in the Gospels, he did not see someone who was safe. Good? Yes. Safe? Unthreatening? No. Following in the way of Jesus means not only adopting a different understanding of God's nature, but also a different way of living in community, living in the world. To be a follower of the one who accepted and even honored the disreputable means that you are called to do the same. To follow the one who preached love and forgiveness is to practice the same. On this celebration of Epiphany, we follow a group of magi, star watchers, to find Jesus, a threat to Herod and those like him, and a gift of God's grace and love to those who need him the most. This is the good news that we hear today. Thanks be to God for that. Amen. As a way of going deeper into this story that we heard today, one reflection question today for you. Have this conversation with a partner, journal about it, think about it, use it in whatever way is beneficial to you to allow you to go deeper into the story of faith. So here's the first question, the only question. In what way is the grace and love of God that Jesus proclaims and enacts threatening to your current beliefs, values, assumptions, and worldview? I would like you to seriously think about this because it's not if, it is a fact. So how is this the case? Use this to go deeper into the story and into your spiritual faith.